that you gain after speaking affirmations over yourself. The more you hear it, the more you believe that it's true.
And welcome to Premier Fitness. I'm Gene Williams, your yoga instructor, and I'm here to tell you about the benefits of yoga.
Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us. You have just tuned in to Where is the Love? I am your host. I am Stephanie Hockenhall. Joining me is my co-host, Gene Williams, my son.
Hey, Ma, how you doing?
Hey, son, you ready to party?
Let's rock and roll. Let's rock and roll.
Y'all have to tease Gene. He had a show last night, so he's lost his voice. So he has a raspier voice today. Um, but hopefully, you can still hear him well. We are prepared. We have a guest today. But before we bring on our guest, we want you to know that you can join us on our YouTube channels, Love Misunderstood Institute or Premier Fitness 0210. So you can join us there or watch us on TV. We're live right now on TV. We're live on Roku. We're live on Amazon Fire. All you have to do is go to either one of those and go search and then search Pod TV, POD TV space, LIVE. And you can watch us on TV right now as we speak. So those are ways that you can join us and ways that you can be a part of the show. If you're on our YouTube channel, chat with us, talk, ask questions so that we can engage more of the conversation. You have anything you want to add?
Chime in, man. Chime in. Ask a question. Call into the radio station. Hello, I'm on the air.
All right, we will bring on our guest. First, last week we talked about bullies. So we talked about how to help the bully. We always talk about the person being bullied, but last week, go back to our show, episode 86,
Six.
I think.
Yeah, 86.
Uh,
Yeah.
and so last week we were helping the bully. We were giving the bully tips and helping them to understand, helping people to understand the bully. So go back. All
And
right, go ahead.
I was going to say also, you're talking about showing empathy for the bully because, everyone has their trauma that they are healing from, hopefully, if they're doing the work. Um, However, I do want to give this disclaimer like we did last week. Don't allow your empathy to be a tool of further manipulation from the bully to you. You
Yeah.
be empathetic, but don't let them run over you, man.
Mark said bullies don't need tips; they need curing. Gene said that they do need the help,
Mhm.
but they
And
have to
sometimes
be.
we need a bop upside the head too. Bop. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Oh, you get it now.
Okay, so now we're going to bring on our guest. We are bringing in Claire Bell Coriano. So welcome, Claire Bell Coriano.
Thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here and
You
speak
are
on this
Likewise.
topic.
you are welcome, and thank you for coming. Thank you for joining our
Absolutely.
show. We're excited. So, Claire Bell, tell us about yourself.
So, first of all, I am a transformational life coach. I began my journey in life coaching in 2023. I have been preparing myself for about 3 years prior while I was still on my role of senior clinical director, working with the prior homeless individuals and also as a
Mm.
supervisor in a leadership position. So I made some changes in my career in 2021. I moved to the state of Florida and I began my journey in life coaching. And I always like
Wow.
helping people, but I want to help people in a different way.
Right.
That is awesome. Awesome. And,
So
and
go ahead, Gene.
I was gonna say, I love the fact that you work with the homeless for so long. People disregard the homeless so quickly, like they don't have a life of feelings or, you know, just man, like they don't matter at all. So it's awesome that that a lot of your work early on was working with those disadvantaged, um, ignored people in our society.
Hmm. Yeah, there's a lot of stigma around, the homeless individuals. And one thing I learn a lot from them, first of all, because they'll come from different facets, they come from different socioeconomic backgrounds, and they come, some of them have masters, PhD,
Yeah,
and I got to meet a lot of very interesting people. I got to meet professors, I got to meet people that normally you would not think that they will end up homeless, but they, some unfortunate circumstances, they ended up homeless, and it could have been a death of a loved one, divorce, or something to that manner, loss of employment, or child dying. So we have to take, look at that. It can happen to anyone.
yeah, yeah,
Hmm.
That's
very
very
true.
Yeah, Mark said he met homeless people who were ex-professors and even some ex-military. So
Yeah,
Yes.
I have seen a lot of military homeless people.
yeah,
They have a lot of nonprofit organizations and just a lot of organizations that do help the military uh, as well.
the
And I
veterans.
know that they have a lot of homeless, organizations that just help homeless people period. But um, go ahead, Claire Bell, because I can see you want to say
Yes.
something.
I did work with the veterans as well, and there's still a lot more that we can do for the homeless. I am a strong
Hmm.
advocate of more funding for the homeless veterans, because they're a different, different category of homelessness, and
Right.
they come in with a lot of major trauma and PTSD. So there's a certain
Yeah.
way that you have to approach them. There's a certain way that you have to treat them, and also they have a sense of, I'm not going to say pride, but like that kind of honor that they don't want to, how you say, like have seconds or things like that. They will see it like that. So changing that mindset is very important, to let them know, look, you need the help and this is temporary. You can turn your life around, and make reassuring them, because to them, a lot of them don't seek the help because of that.
Right.
So what
It's
you
almost.
just said is a lot of them have pride. A lot of
Yes,
them have,
yes.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's not like unlike anybody else, but it just surprised me when you said that because I already don't have anything. I'm already without. So that
Mm-hmm.
just brought something new to me, a new thought concerning them. I never thought of them being prideful, of getting, having to get assistance or get help. I never
Right.
thought of it like that.
Mm-hmm. It's a
And
little harder
actually,
for them to accept. Mm-hmm.
no, you
Go ahead, Jean. Okay, go ahead, Claire Bell. Sorry.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a little harder for them to accept the help, but the pride that they feel is almost like the honor from the military. It's almost like they're being let down. It's not because they're,
Oh,
Yes.
yeah, it's not like because they're so prideful or arrogant. It's that honor, that I'm a soldier, and I shouldn't be in this predicament, and
I
I shouldn't
got
be
you.
going through this.
That's
I
it.
got
Yes.
you.
So
Yeah.
you have to sort of like engage them, know how to engage them, know how to talk to them, and know how to um, make them see that this is something that can benefit them in the long run, and stigmas
Oh,
and all those things prevent them from trusting people as well.
yeah.
Yeah.
Your signal was fading in and out, so we missed some of what you said. Go ahead, Jean.
I actually got to work with the Wounded Warrior program here in Memphis a few times. And after, and I did yoga and meditation with them. And afterward, I sat around for about an hour, hour and a half, just talking to them. And that was one of the things they said. It's like I served for my country. I did multiple tours, you know, and came back to this country and was treated like a second class citizen. And there's no way that a person who serves in your military to keep your country safe should be on the street or be struggling for anything. I just think that's a slap in the face, and that's what they were telling me. It's a slap in the face for me to do all that for my country, and then I come back and there's nothing for me. So,
Wow,
Yeah,
this
it's in,
conversation. Go ahead.
that's a good example that you provided, because the Vietnam vets, they suffer the most,
yes,
and they suffer the long-term homelessness. You know, when they came from Vietnam, there was no, it was like they were shunned, you know.
yep,
It was like almost to them, it was shameful that they went there for that war, and they didn't get
hmm,
that same support system. You know, I had a lot of homeless, long-term homeless clients from Vietnam, and they were a little bit more difficult to work with because of that. They have been
yeah,
homeless for so long, they feel like nobody care. And plus their
right,
trauma has taken a toll on them as well.
yeah. And
I'm
then we
so
can
glad.
also talk about the mental health aspect of it all. Because
Yeah.
not only did I get to work with the homeless that were military veterans, but I also got to work with those, and there was a mixture of them, honestly. But a lot of them had like mental health issues because of PTSD going unchecked for years. Um, I went to the mental health center in the city of Memphis back in 2006 to 2008, I believe, and a lot of them were military, and a lot of them were mental health patients who were just kind of pushed to the side. And
Mhm.
and even in that facility where they were working, the facilitators would utilize the funds that they would get for those patients and siphon it off to something else, and then give the people in the facility um, basically crumbs. You know, you're siphoning off money that was supposed to help us with this program to help us get better, but you're taking the money and doing other stuff with it. So I was actually instrumental in helping that get closed down.
That's horrible.
Yeah,
Yes.
And Jean, I'm glad that you had the heart to speak up, to advocate for them, because funds have been and are still, misused in a lot of things, but you had a heart for them, to help them, and to see them being abused in that way on top of the trauma that they were already experiencing. Thank you for being an advocate. Thank you for speaking up.
yeah,
Yes, thank you.
yeah.
Thank you.
And thank you for your work as well. Like it's absolutely needed.
Yeah, so I'm glad that we had this part of the conversation, because now I have, just from this conversation, a whole different perspective on how I was seeing things. I have a whole different set of eyes,
Yeah.
now, uh, looking in. Um, so, Jean, did you have a question to ask her?
Well, I have a lot of questions actually.
Okay.
um, so I guess the first question would be: so with your work with the homeless, how did you go from working with the homeless and going into life coaching? How was that transition? How did that come
That's a
about?
good, that's actually a good question. So I worked in the field over 27 years. A little bit more than that. And I started working during the AIDS epidemic. So I
Mm,
worked with the AIDS population for 3 years, but I lost a lot of clients. They were dying just like they were dropping like flies.
yes, yeah,
That's like that saying, and
Hmm.
they were just dying because at that time they didn't have all the medications for them. So they get diagnosed all of a sudden. They had all these different illnesses, so it was hard to see
Yeah.
them in that manner. They
Yeah.
were amazing people that I got to work with, but it was too hard on seeing them, be dying and stuff. So I started working with the homeless, and I started as a case manager. And as a case manager, I worked for like a year, and then I got promoted for senior, so leadership position, and also providing services to them. And I started growing in the company, creating different programs for them, and teaching them life skills and a lot of different. I got to experience a lot of I would say different ways to help people, and educating them, teaching them life skills, and also the mental health population, because I work with I don't know if you remember, like 20 somewhat years ago, they closed all the institutions, long-term institutions, where
Yeah.
they housed um, the clients disabled with mental illness. So
Yeah.
they were getting discharged, and so they had to create some type of housing, and we created a permanent supported housing for them. So I
That
started
is
working with all the clients, prior to them moving into the housing. I went and did a home visit in the hospital. And again, it was another experience for me, because we had to teach them. There were some clients, I'm going to give an example. There was one young man that when he was younger, he took LSD, and he just lost his mind, became institutionalized from youth to adulthood. And when all the institutions were closing, he was discharged to the permanent supported housing. So basically, I had to teach them from learning all the life skills of maintaining the apartment, hygiene, writing a check, and paying his rent, and things like that, of that manner. And after a few years, you can see the improvement on the gentleman. He was a person that couldn't even speak.
wow.
And from after 10 years, he was able to manage his own rent, do his check. So it was good to see a person progress. They have
Awesome.
the capability of, getting better, maintaining, with the proper support. So I highly encourage, anyone that's in that kind of, that has someone or that's suffering from mental illness, that they are capable of, having a better life. They, as long as they have the support system to teach them those skills.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of miracles. I've seen a
Yeah.
lot of miracles with some of the clients.
That's
And
awesome. Something that you said that really stood out, and people, I don't think people get it. Anyone um, with any issue can come out of the issue if they have a proper support system. Oftentimes, we're
Yes,
left to just fend for ourselves. And you wonder why people get worse over time because they don't have a proper support system. So thank
you're
you for
absolutely
providing that.
correct. You're
yeah,
absolutely correct, especially with the mental health and the veterans. They need the family support. Definitely need the
Yeah.
support.
So within your situation, working with the homeless at the time, did you see a lot of the families disowning the homeless? Was that kind of the background?
Yes, many of the clients that were homeless, they were homeless. Some of them were institutionalized, and some of them were living in the streets. Those were the hardest one to engage as well. And once we engaged them in the supported services, and we started doing the case management and teaching them skills, we work on reintegration of family. So
Hmm.
that was one of the goals that they had. That we had to teach them how to reintegrate. And they burn bridges. Some of them have substance abuse, so they burn bridges with the family.
Right.
So we had to teach them how to mend those fences, and forgiveness. And the family, when they saw that they were progressing, that they were getting better, that they were able to have a communication with them without them getting aggressive or abrasive with the family, So they started trusting them more, and they were able to, some of them were able to move with the family, which
Okay.
was a really good thing to see. Yeah.
Yes, I would
So
imagine.
so with the separation from the family and the family dynamics, you saw a lot of bullying as well, didn't you? Jean was getting ready
Yes.
to say something about that. um, so, but you did see a lot of bullying, either from the homeless person or the family or people that had uh, to deal with the homeless person. Wouldn't you say there was a lot of bullying?
Yes, there was with the family. As you know, people that have problems in the family, they're kind of like the scapegoat. They're the trouble. So the family will say, "Oh, they're crazy," or "They're this," and then that. And sometimes it
Definitely.
stems more from other underlying issues that the person had. They could
Yeah,
have a very traumatic experience in the home, that they had this, mental imbalance, and ended up in an institution. So yes, that type of bullying in the family, relational bullying, and also with the stigma also associated with homelessness and mental
Mm.
illness. With people in the community, oh, why are they helping them? Why are they giving them money? Why are they helping these people? Why don't they help themselves? So you
yeah,
hear a lot of that.
Yeah.
And that stigma, even with even with treaters, even with people that supposed to be working with the client, you may see some type of stigma, and that's kind of like a bullying as well. That can be considered bullying, because you're not seeing the homeless person as a person. You're seeing them as a label of
Problem.
homelessness. So you have to like throw that label away and say, this is a person I'm dealing with, and start working with the issues that they have, the root issues. And like I said, they have the capability of doing better, way better than, from when we started working with them. I saw a lot of progress. So there is a lot of bullying. They get assaulted a lot, and some even get killed, in the streets because of the bullying as well. Yes, there is bullying in
Mm.
that environment as well.
so I heard you
Yeah.
say relational bullying. So thinking about the list of bullying of the different types of bullies, what other types of bullying did you see within the homeless community, with even the workers or the the people that were homeless and the families? What types of bullying did you see?
There's a lot of abuse. There's a lot of physical abuse as well. A lot of history of that generational abuse, domestic violence. You see a lot of, like I said, that whole family dynamics being very toxic, and they are not respectful. They will hit each other or fight, and some came from that were charged with some crimes due to hurting the family members because they were
Wow.
not being validated or heard. So there is, yes, there is. And also with the treaters, with the service providers, you
Mm.
have this preconceived notion on the homelessness. So what, when you're trying to treat the person, you're not seeing them again like that human being. I say, oh no, not that person again, not that. Um, you know, why don't they get a job? They don't have money to pay, or it's always like kind of like the same thing. So in a way, it's kind of like marginalizing the individual, and not seeing them again like everybody else. That they are like a client. They're your client just like everybody else. So well, that person
Mm.
is difficult.
Yeah.
And they're challenging. They're very challenging. I was saying.
The life
So
is.
And some were bullies themselves. So
Yeah.
some of the
some were
homeless were
major
bullies.
bullies. I had to deal with some of
Yeah.
those too.
Some
Yeah.
of the you
Oh
talking
yes.
about the
Yeah.
homeless, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and so not
Yes,
making
some of them were
excuses for
bullies.
them, but I can imagine, kinda. I mean, I'm in this position and people are treating me crazy, and so I'm already feeling horrible, about my situation, and then other people adding, their thoughts and feelings, you know. So then all of a sudden if you haven't been, you may become defensive, because I'm already in a horrible situation and y'all aren't helping. Y'all are just adding to the problem, so they feel like they have to, stand up and, you know, um, protect
Protect yourself.
themselves. And some,
Hmm.
may have already been a bully before, they became homeless. But, we all still need help, So,
Yeah, we
Yes,
do.
definitely. I agree with you. With they only help. Hmm.
yeah,
And they it was like you said, they come from that background of bullying, being bullied themselves, because that's how they were treated. They were bullied when they were kids. They were mistreated, and they kept on with that same pattern of bullying others. And I got to work with some clients like that they were definitely bullied. They will tell me this person is aggressive or this person is violent, and you have to try to understand their story. The reason they were bullied was because they were bullied themselves when they were little. So they opted to criminal, doing criminal activities, and they became bigger bullies, because they were doing criminal activities. And so we have those type of clients, the ones that everybody was afraid of because they were bullies.
yeah.
Yeah.
Mm.
But you set boundaries with them. You tell them, look, I heard about your story. I heard about your story, and let's set that aside.
Right.
You're working with me
Right.
now.
Right.
These are the boundaries. Respect. Speak to me in a low tone of voice, and they respect that. Because you treat them like a human being. You're meeting them where they're at. Okay, your story doesn't scare me, but moving forward, this is what we're gonna work on.
I like that.
Love it.
So yes,
Love it.
I
Love
like
it.
that.
they can get help.
Yeah.
They can get
So,
help.
so you are a great transformational coach, because I mean you just flipped the switch that quick. Hey, I heard about all that. I'm aware, but I'm here to help you. So let's get this right
Yes.
now. I mean, I love that. If we could all do that, and not accept the labels, and not accept, what we're
Yes.
hearing from somebody else. I don't know what happened, but for some reason, people listen to, like starting a new job. There's bullies on the job, like for example the job that I work now, bullies on the job. And so
Mhm.
you go to work, and so the bully comes to you and start feeding you all this stuff, and if you're not mature enough to create your own um, relationships with people, and not listen to other people and say, well, they're saying don't do this, with them. So you don't know it's a bully at first. The person is. They're just bringing you all this information and feeding you all this stuff. Don't talk to them. Don't like them. They this, they that. And so you
Mhm.
form in your mind, okay, well, I shouldn't because they said. No, you should be adult enough to make your own decisions and tell that person, okay, I hear you, but I let me learn them myself. Let me learn about them myself. I don't want to hear that, I'm not
Mhm.
interested in what they've done before I came here. I'd like to get to know them for myself. You know, um, that can be very helpful, and decrease the stress on the job or wherever you are. That's a horrible spot to be in. So I want to tell you, go ahead,
Yeah.
Claire Bell. Go ahead. Were you going to say
No,
something?
yes, what you mentioned that, even with individuals like that that try to bring that, like the gossip in employment and stuff like that. I was very big on, I always told my staff, I don't entertain gossip. I don't like it, unless I know from the person, I never entertain it. And I try to create a very healthy work culture for my
Yes.
staff, and
Yes.
making sure that we respect each other and that they respect everyone that's starting new. But I can see, I had experienced something similar, like somebody coming to me and say, that person is very volatile. You can go to them, or you cannot bother this person because they're very high up. And I would say that shouldn't be, because we are working for the same agency. So creating that freedom in work culture is very important. That healthy work culture, that you shouldn't feel like that.
Yeah.
But I always kind of like, stop it. Okay, no gossip. I don't entertain it.
Yeah, cut it out.
Yeah.
Cut it
Yes.
out.
Yeah, because people don't understand that that's bullying too. That's verbal
Mhm.
bullying. You're telling me not to,
Yes.
talking negative about somebody, whether it's their race, their culture, their weight, their, anything about them. That's verbal bullying, and that's exactly what you're doing. So you're the one I gotta watch out for because you
Mm-hmm.
started
Yes.
this. So now that means I gotta keep my eye on you
Yes,
Right.
while
definitely.
I learn about everybody else.
And it's also triangulation. It's also triangulation. We're trying to create a narrative
Mhm.
before a person even gets to deal with the other person. So now you're trying to create a circle of distance and control and
Dissension.
manipulation. Right, right.
Mm-hmm.
Trying to get, before they even get to know them. That is triangulation 101.
Yeah.
Yeah, it creates dissension. It creates
Yeah,
separation. It's like you're placing a seed of poison in everyone, and before you know it, everyone hates that
it's
person,
cool. Yeah.
and
Yep.
that should not be. That should not
Yeah.
be. One of the things that I used to do as a supervisor was having orientation for the new staff, and I will bring in all my new staff to that orientation to meet the new staff, and also I place them with different staff to shadow, so that way they can get to know each staff individually. So that's
That's
another
Yeah.
smart.
creating that good, healthy work culture.
I like that.
Very
That's
smart.
good. So how was your how did you respond to your workers being in a leadership position if they came to you and told you that they were being bullied? What, how was that experience? How did you respond to it?
I have to tell you honestly that I didn't have any situation where my staff were bullying other staff. However, any kind of, like, if there was any kind of issues, we will always work it out during our staff meeting. I did supervision with the staff on one, and also supervision as a group. So all those things, were discussed in a group.
Okay.
We don't tolerate that type of behavior. We don't, this is, our work culture is different, and we respect each other, we're working together. And I pretty much have had a very united, I would say, group of employees. I didn't see them, like at each other's throat or anything like that. However, I
That's
did experience something like that.
Mm.
But
Tell us about that,
with
please.
the, mm, were you saying something, Gina? I didn't hear you.
Yeah, I was asking you. You said you experienced that. Do you mind kind of giving us an example of what you experienced?
To give an example, you said?
Of what
Yeah.
you experienced. You said you experienced some bullying, so he was saying, elaborate on that.
Okay. I did experience one time that I was working with the AIDS population. I was working in an agency, and the person that they assigned me to, sort of like that person to train me, their demeanor, their attitude, everyone was afraid of this person. Um, and I guess they have right to be afraid because the person was very abrasive, very loud, very I mean, she would just like snap. I wasn't used to that culture, and every time I went to the person, like my supervisor advised me to go to that person to get the help that I need to work with the population. She had to deal with like the resources and finances for the clients, the HIV clients. So I would still need to go to her no matter what. She was just like, what? Or very, very abrasive. I wasn't used to that.
Yeah,
So I did have to have a talk with my supervisor. Hey, I'm new. You assigned me to this person, and this person is reacting in this manner. It was almost like
Mm.
a dog barking, you know,
yeah,
and her attitude. And no lie, my supervisor started crying because my supervisor said, you know what? She comes in here and she just let me have it. And she was also affected by this individual. So it can be very,
Mm.
very disruptive in a work environment. It should not be because it causes stress for the person. I was new.
Mm.
It was a first-hand experience for me, but I knew that that behavior was not appropriate in the work environment. And
right.
the supervisor was being affected, and for the supervisor to be affected, and she didn't last. After that, she left 3 months after I was there. I only
Wow.
lasted six, and but 3 months after I was there, she left because she could not deal with the lady. She was very well liked in the agency, and they allow her. And people will warn me. I say, oh, don't go to her office today, she's in a bad mood. I said that should
Yeah.
not be. We have to
Right.
separate those
Right.
things. We cannot just go and
Yeah,
snap
Right.
at people or even curse at people in a workplace.
Oh no. Never.
never.
It should not be tolerated. It should not, no
Yeah,
matter how much she knows the CEO or they know the CEO, it should not be tolerated. And yeah, it was a very bad experience for me
Yeah.
because I saw myself as, I wasn't going to get the support because my own supervisor was feeling the brunt of this person's behavior. And if she was the supervisor, I said, I don't want to stay here.
yeah,
And, and I heard after a while that after a few months that she was fired because I
Yeah.
guess somebody else came new and she did the same thing.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
So it causes the companies more money to lose good
Yes.
employees because there's somebody that it's a rotten apple. I
yeah,
will say it just
Right.
like that. It
yeah,
costs us a lot of money, costs us a lot of money with insurance because people tend to get sick. Whenever that person is showing
Right.
up, guess what? People are walking
Yeah.
in pins and needles, and
yep,
that's not
Yeah.
healthy. It's not healthy.
Right.
It decreases productivity also. And again, they lose a lot of money because they lose a lot of good stuff.
yep.
And I can imagine
Yeah,
it would
that
be
was one of
a
my
high
experiences.
turnover rate. I can
Yes,
imagine it
very
would be
much
super high
so.
turnover rate. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes, definitely. Yeah, they were all scared of her. So, yeah.
Right. Mm. My
And
goodness.
that makes it very, very difficult to work. But you said the exact thing. They were all fear, living in fear. Um, and then when somebody speaks
Yes.
up, then eventually the person does get fired. They do get rid of the person, like you said. It takes a while sometimes. I mean, documentation has to be done. People have to,
Mm-hmm.
they have to hear it so they can document, so when they fire the person, and it comes back to them, then they say we have this documentation that on this day she did this or did that. um, so it takes a bit, but it does happen, and I have had that happen, in my workplace as well. So I've seen it happen, and all I do is I just pray, because I'm like, I'm not dealing with you, but I have to speak up and say something. And so the label snitch, I don't care nothing about that. Listen, I'm coming to work, not for all of this stress. So you can
Right.
Yes.
say whatever you want, but I know I'm not a snitch. That's what y'all say. That's not I. I am fearfully and wonderfully made. I ain't that.
Yes.
Oh, so I do want to say something, and then I want you to show us your books. But I do want you to know, Claire Bell, that we have something in common. So the thing that we have in common is both of our sons are business owners and personal trainers. Gene is a
Oh,
personal
wow.
trainer as well as a yoga instructor. So when I saw that, I was
Mhm.
like, oh, wow, we have something in common. So I wanted to make sure I told you that. Um,
Yes, I sure will. I'm gonna send him the link, and maybe he can send me your link, Jean, so I can, because he's getting more
Okay.
to do podcasts now. So he wants to
Okay.
like be invited to different podcasts.
oh,
Okay.
nice.
Great. Great. Yeah. Definitely. Definitely. Definitely.
So,
Uh,
oh, your books. Show us your books, Miss
Oh, yes.
Author Clara Bell. And so, what's the name of that one?
So you want to be a life coach. It's a life coaching guide and workbook. And this is based on my journey as a life coach, what I learned from all the resource that I gather, how I started, what got me interested in life coaching. And it has a lot of motivational chapters and quotes, and also a little story, which is really good. It has also goal plans, and it just guides you like from the first step that you need to do, like, okay, so you're preparing to make this shift in your career. It's evaluating if this is what you want, don't want, what tools you're going to need, how it's going to help you. And basically, I when I got my book, I started crying because I started reading and I go, oh my God, this is really good. Not because I wrote it, but it makes a lot of sense. For somebody
mhm.
that is looking to change career, I think it will give you that, how you say, that push, like, okay, this is good. It talks about
Okay.
branding, online presence, social media. So it's a little bit of everything that they're gonna need. And I say, you know
Wow.
what?
Awesome.
Yes, I wanted to help. Again, I wanted to help others. So this is a good guide to help others in their
Awesome.
Wow.
journey.
That's awesome. And so, how long have you been doing life coaching?
Now, I did it, like I said before, I started getting prepared 3 years prior while I
Okay.
was doing my clinical, as a senior clinical director. I was still working my job, and I went to school. I took many different trainings, and I started getting prepared. While I was in school, I was doing coaching with friends, family, and also students. So I got that experience, and I got very good
Mhm.
feedback from my professor. And basically, I think I have been doing it all my life. So
Mhm.
now I'm shifting it to a different population, different um, a different category. I'm also trauma informed, so I have my certificate in trauma
Awesome.
informed, and
Congratulations.
yes, because I want to be equipped with, like the tools that you need to work with clients with trauma.
Yeah.
Because this changes a lot of the dynamics over the years. So you want to be keeping yourself abreast on the new changes
Yes.
that happen every 2 years with, even in the mental health. Before, we never heard about embodiment therapy, and now it's something new.
Mhm.
We never heard about the whole complex complexity of the trauma. We heard about trauma
Mm-hmm.
being associated with militaries, domestic violence, and things like that, or childhood trauma. But it's more complex than that. They have done studies that had pinpointed to even trauma in gestational trauma in the belly. So
Mm-hmm.
people can suffer trauma and it manifests in
Yeah.
adulthood because of the
Yeah.
trauma that the mother experienced.
Yeah.
That
So
makes a
it's
lot of
very
sense.
interesting. It's very interesting. Yeah, we're seeing a lot more of that. A lot of people suffering from trauma. As the changes in the family dynamics, all of the problems with domestic violence, and disasters. A lot more disasters. So there's a lot of more complex trauma occurring these
Yeah.
days. In a lot of school
Yeah.
shootings, a lot of school shootings. So
Yes.
all that contributes
Goodness.
to that.
Man. I mean, we can talk
Mhm.
about, we can go into the school shootings. That would be a whole nother show. But I actually, I saw on your website that you do spiritual coaching. So can you kind of like tell us how that started?
Can you repeat that again? Because I didn't hear it. I heard spiritual coaching. Is that what I heard?
Yes, yes. How did you become? I know that you've been doing life coaching for a long time, but how did you become a
Mhm.
spiritual coach as well?
Okay, so that is I want to be a Christian life coach. So to be a Christian life coach, you have to use biblical principles. And as a believer, I already studied the Bible, and I want to implement that biblical principle as well. And if you think about it, everything that individuals go through has some type of spiritual component to it,
Yes.
that they're missing that piece of getting closer to God, or they're missing that piece of knowing. Some people call it the source, but I call it God. That connection, and they're trying to find that connection. That connection is God.
Hmm.
There's something very interesting that I just learned about the name of God. That is, yeah, you cannot say Yahweh. It's Yahweh. It's your breath,
It's like a breath. It's a
and God
breath.
put
Yeah.
that breath in
Yeah.
us. So it's so
Yeah.
interesting. So we're missing that connection. We're missing that breath of connection that with God, that He put us here for a purpose. And so using biblical principle is also guiding the individuals in that spiritual component. It's not teaching religiosity or religion or anything like that. It's guiding them in teaching them how to connect to that, where they need to be in terms of spirituality. Yes.
I love
And
it.
so I want to ask you this about that. So, spiritual on your
Mhm.
website, it says spirituality can be a powerful tool for improving mental and emotional wellness. So, my question to you is, how do you use your spirituality to help others? So, in addition to what you just said, because that's some of it.
Mhm.
So, how do you use your spirituality to help?
That's a very good question. Um, we want to promote hope. We want to
And
encourage.
and
And that
peace.
hope that we're trying to promote, can only be found in God.
Yes.
From my experience, it can only be found through God. And I'm also going to give you an example, because I did have clients that they were a mess. And whenever you mention that connection, they broke down. They will break down, and they
Wow.
will say, you know what? I have to get back on track, or I have to go to church. Let me tell you, I have
Mm.
seen them 180 degrees. All of a sudden, they're a totally different person. So
Wow.
we have to understand that some of the illnesses, the mental health, are somewhat related to some type of, They're related to the trauma, but the trauma opens the door to spiritual things, and they also need deliverance. They need to
Yes.
also learn how to reject that. You know,
Yes.
we're not necessarily saying they're demonic possessed, but they need to learn how to gain that authority in Christ, that that oppression that they've been feeling has to go. And we have that the authority, we have that power
Yes.
in God
Yes.
to say, okay, you know, I'm not
Yep.
going to be accepting this negativity. I'm not going to
Yep.
be acting in this manner.
Yep.
So sharing that hope with them, encouraging them that there is hope, and there's hope in Christ. It's
Yeah.
another, way that we can help them reflect and become self-aware that that spiritual void that they've been feeling. Because let me tell you, they can try everything possible in the world. It's not going to fill it. It might
Right.
temporarily fill it, but it is not going to fulfill that whole void and close that
Yeah.
door that they need to close. It
Yeah.
might need to take all that stuff out. It's like taking all that garbage, dumping it, leaving it, and not going back and getting it back again.
Yeah.
And, so they have to make that decision. I want to be healed. I want to learn how to be healed. And I'm going to work on being healed, because one thing it is, I want to be healed. But if they're not taking action, they're not going to take the steps, they're not going to be committed, and that they're going to be going on that cycle, that cycle of triggers, relapse, get back on track again, the same cycle. So they have to, like, you know how you say, face it head on and say,
Yeah.
okay, I had enough, I'm done, you know and make the changes, the necessary changes, or take the action steps with the client. I never, like, when I'm working with the clients in the past, I never say you need recovery or you need to go to a program, because they had addiction problems.
Yeah.
There was something really, because of the way that I treat them, there was something very special with that, because they will come and tell me, Miss Coriano, I have something to tell you. I relapse. And they will tell me the truth. I say, you know what? It takes a lot just for you to come to my office and tell me that you relapse. So
Yeah.
now, what are you going to do to
Yep.
prevent that? And what are you going to do for yourself to get you healthy and get on the right track? And they will say, well, I'm going to call this program, or I'm going to go into this program. And I used to tell them, you have to take that step. The same thing in life coaching. We can be the best life coach, but if we're telling the client what to do, they're not going to get nowhere. It's almost like that child trying to please their parent.
Yep.
They have to make that decision. I want to change. They're giving me the tools, and not really giving the tools, but teaching them how to find the tools within themselves, so they can apply those tools to learn where they need to be at, because they have to make that decision themselves. We can only guide them in a way, but not tell them, hey, you have to do this, you have to do that. Coaching is not about that. Coaching is about allowing the person to find their own answers. And you'll
Yeah.
be surprised, because they will find them. They will find them. You just gotta ask the questions and listen to what they're saying, and then let them know, oh, you made a very interesting point, you said this and that, and this sounds good. What will be the next step that you plan to take? Or you know using that kind of challenging questions that we can ask them. So
It's kind
yes,
of
it works with
brain.
the public. Yes, exactly. It triggers the brain to think and say, okay, this is about me. It's not
Right.
about them. It's about me, what I need to do for myself.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely. And it works with the client. It works with anyone that has
Mm-hmm.
struggling with life issues. And we have to also understand that any mental illness is a life imbalance problem. And it
Mm-hmm.
also has to do, like I mentioned before, the spiritual aspect as well. And life imbalance problem. It can be caused by a death, like a death of a loved one. It could be caused by divorce. Many people have gotten depressed, but it's not. It's workable. It can be healed, and they can progress and move forward from that situation. We just have to be that support system that can be there for them to see that.
Right. And
That's
so it
great.
sounds like what you're doing as a life coach is you are helping them go from being problem focused to solution focused.
Yep.
And I think that's where we get lost. It's like we get so caught up in the problems that we're dealing with, and we don't see the way out. We don't see the solution in the problem. So it's like as a life coach, you kind of shine the light. Okay, so that was interesting what you said, and then maybe you should try this,
Hmm.
and then it starts those wheels are turning, and next thing you know, it's like okay, oh, so maybe I should do this, and then it's like you're not only jogging their brain to be solution oriented in that particular issue, but also you give them the tools to use down the line. So if they have the same thing reoccurring, then it's okay. I did this last time, so let me try this. You know, so on and so forth.
And it's interesting you mentioned that,
We're
because the
almost out of
problem.
time.
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
but we're
So
almost out
just
of
one
time.
last the problem can be a different problem. They might come in with this problem that they think that they're struggling with, but it may turn out that they found out, okay, that's not really the real problem. This is the real problem. So it's interesting
That's
that you
good.
mentioned that, because yes, they will get to see that there's other problems that they have to work on.
Right.
That's really,
Right.
really good. Everybody, we are out of time. So, Claire Bell
Thank you so much.
Coriano, you can get in touch with her at, it just went away, empowerglobalcoaching.com. Um, and get help from her. She has a lot of information. We will put the link to her book, attach it to this video so that you can purchase her book. Um, and Clarabelle, we just want to say thank you for
Thank you so
coming to our
much.
show. And I told you the time would go by fast. And
Yes, it did. And yes, interesting that we got to speak about the homeless, because you know what?
Hmm.
With this storm that happened, there's going to be a lot of homelessness.
Yes.
So a
wow,
lot of people lost
Yes.
their houses. So it's interesting
wow,
that we got to that topic.
yeah,
But
Yes.
it's a pleasure to be as a guest, and it's an honor to share my resources and some of my experiences with the audience. And like you mentioned, they can connect with me at my email or my website, and also the link to my book will be provided. I thank you so much for having me. It's been great conversation.
Yeah.
thank
Thank
you,
you.
thank
Thank
you,
you so
thank
much.
you. So take care,
Very
You're
enjoyable.
guys.
welcome.
We will see y'all next week, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time, right here, wherever you're watching us from. So we send you peace, we send you love, and tell you to take care. See you next time.
Thank you.